Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. 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 Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
イランの大規模な反撃を開始しました。
最高指導者ハメネイ師の死の報復を果たす。不信号者に死を。
テルアビブでは弾道ミサイルが市内に着弾したとの報告です。ドバイ国際空港も攻撃を受けた模様です。
カタールのドーハで攻撃が発生したとの報告が入っている。
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. Today is Thursday, March the 5th, 2026. Broadcasting live from high atop the Jeffersonian Tower of Truth, situated on the southern bank of the mighty Missouri River, streaming live. This is the Wake Up America show. Do you feel that? You know, the tension in the air. This is the palpable, historical vibration of a republic being assaulted from all sides and from within. We have a three-front war for the soul of this nation, and today we're going to name names on the geopolitical front, tracking a sovereign terror regime in Tehran that had placed a bounty on the head of Donald Trump. This isn't about a threat to the President of the United States. This was a decapitation strike that was aimed at American leadership. Donald Trump says that Iran tried to assassinate him twice. We'll take a look at that this morning. But while the Mullahs were plotting, the maritime underwriters at Lloyd's of London, that's an insurance company, folding like a cheap suit in the Strait of Hormuz. We've got a shipping blockade, an assassination plot, and a White House that is talking about how they are behaving in order to protect the president, his life. How many times do you have to try to assassinate somebody before you're allowed to strike back? Well, the media apparatus, all meanwhile, has found the real enemy, good manners. I've got a report from Your Tango detailing 11 outdated manners. Gen Z is officially deplatformed. Apparently, an unscheduled phone call is a psychological attack, saying sir or ma'am is a hierarchical microaggression. And we're going to talk about that with Camellia, as well as this question of, is the American family dying because we're broke? Or because we've become too narcissistic to love anyone but ourselves? Also, I'm going to ask Camellia Petersen about the Iranian Baddies situation. And I see Gen Z males are more likely than older generations to believe that men should tell their women what to do. Yeah, that is actually a real headline and a real poll. The kids are all right. So if you want to see the raw, unfiltered, politically incorrect deep dives and absurdities, you need to have that little red castle next to your name. When we create exclusive bonus content, you can only watch it if you're a member, and that's what that little red castle will denote. So gift each other some subscriptions, buy each other into the community if you can, support the Wake Up America show directly. If we raise $100 today on the Wake Up America show in Rumble Rants, gifted subs, or purchases at forlibertyshop.com, then you unlock the mini documentary, which is back. We fixed our broken mini documentary machine. So if we hit $150, which we haven't done in a little while, we haven't played the Great Grift Off in a while. You guys want to play the Great Grift Off? We're ready. If we raise $150 today during the live show, then you guys are going to support the Wake Up America show and get yourself some neat stuff. Okay, let's do it. All right. Wake up, America. Close your eyes and picture the night of February 16th, 1804. The moon is a cold sliver over the harbor of Tripoli. In the shadow of the Pasha's fortress sits the USS Philadelphia, a captured American frigate, a floating humiliation being prepared as a weapon against our own ships. Suddenly, a filthy rat-infested trading ketch called the Intrepid drifts out of the gloom. On deck, a few sailors in disguise are desperately pleading in broken Arabic, claiming they've lost their anchors in a gale and just need to tie up for the night. The guards on the Philadelphia blink. They hesitate. And in that split second, 25-year-old Stephen Decatur, a man whose name should be plastered on every schoolhouse in this country, bellows the two words that have reverberated through the centuries. Border! 75 American sailors leap from the shadows, blades drawn, overpowering the guards in 20 minutes of raw, unadulterated American grit. Decatur doesn't just take the ship back. He turns it into a volcano. He lights the powder magazine and escapes into the night as the harbor turns into a wall of fire, destroying the enemy's prize. Horatio Nelson, the great British admiral himself, called it the most daring act of the age. But here's the kicker. Decatur wasn't there because of a diplomatic misunderstanding. He was there because the Barbary pirates, the 7th century thugs of their day, thought that they could tax American trade into extinction. They demanded tributes. They demanded ransoms. And fast forward 222 years to today, and we are right back in the harbor. The Strait of Hormuz is ghostly quiet. 81% of tanker traffic has vanished. And it's not because of a minefield. It's because the pencil-pushing pirates in London, the Joint War Committee at Lloyd's, just declared the entire Gulf uninsurable. The invisible hand of the market just gave the world the middle finger. And of course, Uncle Sam now steps up to pay the protection money. Now, don't tell the squishes online, the woke right, woke left, or any of the other turds, lolberts, and others, but we are watching the rebirth of a Hamiltonian reality. Alexander Hamilton knew in the 1790s what the brain-dead bureaucrats in Brussels forgot. Trade is not free. Freedom isn't free. It's bought with sovereign credit and protected by sovereign steel. Hamilton argued in Federalist Number 11 that a nation without a navy forfeits the privilege of being neutral. He knew that if we didn't back our own ships, the world would treat us like an unclaimed wallet at a Doobie Brothers concert. And now, the private market is getting out. Chubb, AIG, the whole lot of them. They're all running for cover. This is our marketplace now. They've recognized a $20 million drone built in a garage can sink a $200 million tanker. So the math makes the underwriters weep. So who steps in? President Trump. He just announced that the U.S. Development Finance Corporation is now the world's insurance agent. The American taxpayer is now the lead underwriter for every rusty oil bucket in the Persian Gulf. Enjoy your new investment, America. I'm sure that'll work out as well as the Cash for Clunkers program did. I know. Some of my friends in the recreational nuclear weapon wing of the Liberty Movement are screaming into their CB radios, Austin, just arm the ships. Bring back the privateers. Look, I love a good letter of marque as much as the next guy. But let's be real. Thomas Jefferson tried to avoid the cost of a navy by paying tributes, which is just an academic way of saying he paid protection money to the thugs in Tripoli. It cost us at that time 1/6 of the entire federal budget in bribes. Today, if a private security team on a Maersk tanker fires a 30-millimeter cannon at an Iranian patrol boat, they don't get a hero's parade in New York like they deserve. They get a cell next to the pirates they were fighting. The modern global port system is designed by lawyers to strangle private force. In 2026, you're either a recognized state actor or you're just a guy with a gun and a very expensive legal bill. The privateer fantasy, as much as I enjoy it, crashes into the reality of port state control every single time. If you don't get port control, if you don't get the government's permission, you're not bringing in things. Ports are secure points. Now, the U.S. government insurance guarantee is not what you call a bailout, but I'm sure the looters in D.C. are already figuring out how to expense their champagne to it. It's a tripwire. So by stepping in where Lloyd's of London fears to tread, the United States has just tied your bank account to the hull of every tanker in the Gulf. The DFC is now co-signing the world's energy bill. If an Iranian missile hits a tanker underwritten by the U.S. government, it isn't just a bad quarter for Exxon. It's a direct hit on the American Treasury. So we're nationalizing the risk of global trade. The brave new world of 2026 is one where the invisible hand has been replaced by the clumsy thumb of bureaucracy. So we're now subsidizing the world's gas prices with American credit because London syndicates admitted they can't stand the heat. It's revenue or reciprocity, just like Hamilton said. If you want cheap gas, you apparently have to be willing to sink the other guy's entire navy. So what does this mean for us at the pump? You've probably seen gas prices are going up. I mean, the cost of your gallon regular is no longer just a reflection of supply and demand. It's a reflection of how much debt the Treasury can stack up to cover the Iranians' target practice. So we're seeing a fracturing of the seas. China is starting their own insurance pool. Russia is doing the same. The global village is on fire and the neighbors are all locking their doors. So the Jeffersonian ideal, peace, commerce, honest friendship, it is a beautiful dream. But the Iranians are the alarm clock and they're loud. You cannot have trade without power. And right now, American power is the only thing keeping the world from returning to the Pony Express. Wake up, America. The rules-based international order is currently in the ICU, requiring mouth-to-mouth from the American taxpayer. So we're being told that this is about global stability, which is bureaucrat speak for we messed up the foreign policy and now we need your wallet. So this is a massive transfer of risk from wealthy London syndicates to the guy like me driving a Ford F-150 in Missouri, right? We're guaranteeing the trips so the oil keeps flowing to places that don't even like us. It's old school power politics with the digital veneer. The question isn't whether we can afford the Navy, it's whether we can afford to be the co-signer for a planet that's trying to max out our credit cards. This is something that has to get fixed fast. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, don't forget to click the like button. Good morning, everyone. Make sure you click that like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. I'll be glad and grateful to have you here. So now I know what you're thinking when you hear this, right? Austin, is that it? So are we just vassals to these London pencil pushers until the end of time? Absolutely not. The collapse of Lloyd's of London in the Gulf, this insurance company, it's not just a crisis because while it is a crisis, it is also an opportunity. This might be the greatest opportunity for American maritime supremacy since the end of World War II. So we don't need the permission of a 300-year-old coffee house in London to trade on the high seas. We have the capital, we have the technology, and for the first time in decades, we actually have the national will to stop outsourcing our sovereignty to European middlemen. So how do we win? How do we turn this into a win? This crisis into an opportunity? We strip away the red tape and build an American maritime exchange. A Lone Star insurance consortium that doesn't answer to the UN or the globalist reinsurance cartels. We have the technology now, blockchain-backed, real-time risk assessment that Lloyd's can't even fathom. We can monitor every ship in the Gulf with Starlink and artificial intelligence, pricing risk in seconds, not weeks. We don't need a blue card from London if we have an American card backed by the gold at Fort Knox and the firepower of the Fifth Fleet. So we win, America wins, by delinking from the old world. We win by telling the Mullahs, you can threaten the London markets all you want, but an attack on an American-insured vessel is an act of war against the United States Treasury. That's called determined deterrence. We can rebuild the merchant marine, we can bring the profits of global trade back to Pier 57, and we can prove, once again, that the only thing more powerful than an American frigate is an American entrepreneur with the backing of a defiant nation. The old order is dying. Trump has killed it. So let's us be the ones who write the new rules. People say I'm crazy. What do they say? Speaking of maxing out, if you want to stay awake long enough to watch the debt clock spin, you're going to need something stronger than the weak stuff they serve at the UN cafeteria. We don't need a government guarantee to deliver the truth or the best beans in the business. Before we get in the next segment, we're going to have you guys all head over to forlibertyshop.com, guys. Let's do it. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to support the show that supports you and your liberty. Click the like button. It's totally free. But if you want to spend a little money, it's a rich man's world. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com. We're going to play a little game. We're going to see how many people we can get on the site. We're going to track, speaking of tracking using AI, in real time, we're going to look at the heat map of visitors over at forlibertyshop.com. So everybody go ahead and head on over to forlibertyshop.com. I'm going to pull up the map, and we're going to show you guys. We're going to show you guys the map. So this is, if I have this powerful technology in my back end, a little more junk in my trunk. Head over to forlibertyshop.com. Put some items in your cart. Let's see if we can see where everybody's from this morning. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, I get a little globe in the back where I can see where everybody's visiting us. If you're at forlibertyshop.com, that's the number 4, libertyshop.com. When you head over there, you're going to get pop up on my little heat map, which looks like they've moved, and now I have to look for. We'll take a brief little break. When we get back, what's next? Did Iran try and assassinate the president? If so, is that an act of war? We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network.
A city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up. He keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Glad and thankful to have you here. How are you doing today? drop an American flag in the chat if you love freedom. I love freedom, but freedom isn't free. We were talking here in the shoe closet the other day, Colton and Brad and I, about the price of freedom. I can't remember what the specific example of it was. I wish I could, dang it. It was like, it was kind of an aha moment. It was either Brad or Colton had an aha moment about how, yes, we were talking about capitalism. We're talking about money. We're talking about other countries' views of money versus the United States' view of money. You'll find this interesting. And, in Argentina, I'm speaking to a lot of people in Argentina, trying to build relationships down there, trying to learn from Javier Milei's Libertad Avanza. God bless Javier Milei. Look at all those Americans who love freedom down there. But I talked to these Argentines about, how do we take our countries back? How do we succeed? And the thing about the United States that I'm realizing, and I'm learning from these people from other countries, is that the attitude of how we look at money in the United States is one of the reasons why we have our freedoms. Because our attitude and view of money is so radically unique compared to anywhere else in the world that they can't have freedom because they don't have money. Now, what do I mean when I say you can't have freedom? Well, can you buy freedom? Well, to some extent, you can. Certain types of freedom can be purchased. Absolutely. Certain types of security can be purchased that can give you more freedom if you want to be able to move in certain places. But our attitude towards money in the United States, our attitude towards fundraising specifically, how we raise money here in the United States for us to participate in certain causes. So, for example, the For Liberty Network. I'm raising money for this network so that we can build, create jobs, create better content, push it out faster, grow our community of activists, invest more in technology, infrastructure, what have you, right? So what do? I get on here and I beg you guys for money. I say,
can you bless me with something?
Oh gosh.
Money-wise.
Right. And when you do like Entropy Nomad, when you gift subs or things like that, that fundraising, that act of that behavior, that's very rare in the world. Most people, places in the world, they don't do things like that. And the reason why is because, and this is what Argentines have been telling me, the reason why they don't fundraise the way that we Americans do for causes that we believe in or support people like entrepreneurs like myself or streamers or vodcasters or whoever, is because in Argentina and in other places of the world, all of the money just comes from the government. If something needs to be done to build a community, then the government does it. It's a park. The government builds it, right? So if it doesn't come from the government, then it doesn't get done. That's their whole attitude. I mean, can you imagine the mind shift? Here in the United States, if we've got something that we want to do in our community, are there people who will sit back and hope that the government will do it? Sure. But the one thing that really separates the United States is very unique in the world is that we are fundraisers. We want to get something done. We're not afraid to ask for money. And then we share money with people who share money with us. So because we understand that the way that the economy works is that it's not a fixed pie. Most people really look at the world as if it is a fixed pie. They look at money, most socialists, leftists, communists, or people who just don't understand economics, even on like the most basic of level, supply or demand. They think there's a fixed pie. They think that if I have money, then you don't have money. But the more you give strategically, the more you get. The fact is that especially there are some communists who understand this concept. These are the very, very wealthy elite communists. They do understand money, and they use their money to spread evil because they'll go and they'll finance a documentary about Che Guevara, a movie about Che Guevara, because even if they're not necessarily going to make a profit on that, this is kind of a weakness on the right. Everybody has weaknesses and blind spots, and the conservative weakness is not investing in infrastructure for culture jamming, because we do have to fight the culture war. Now, Drew, it is true the government gets in the way of interpersonal commerce, but, plenty of Americans are scofflaws. Plenty of Americans aren't reporting. That's another thing that makes the United States different in our attitude towards money. Americans, I mean, you talk about cheating. We don't cheat each other. We cheat our government. The other countries, they cheat each other. Or they're miserly with each other. You learn a lot about money when you are in a fundraising position. Have you ever done a development position, say at a nonprofit, or maybe you worked in sales? Have you ever worked a sales job where you had to maybe do cold calls or something like that? You learn a lot about people's attitude towards money. There's a fascinating psychology, and we've been discussing around here, is that like, this is inspired by my second reading of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Highly recommend. A lot of people do have a poor dad. I think probably most people do have like the poor dad mentality. But the way that the rich look at money and the way that the poor look at money is so radically different. There's a mindset. There's a poverty mindset. And I think that this poverty mindset is how people get into poverty and they stay in poverty because they can't break out of a mindset towards money. And that poverty mindset is rife throughout South America, throughout many of the countries in the third world. It's not that they don't have access to natural resources. It's not that they don't have access to knowledge or education. They do have access. If they have access to the internet, and Starlink is rapidly making its way into all of the places in the third world, if they have those, if they have access to knowledge and information, if they have access to natural resources, which many of these third world countries have tons of access to natural resources. So the education is not the problem. The access to resources is not the problem. Well, what's the problem? The problem is the mindset. The problem is that if you can have access to all the resources in the world. If you don't know how to use it and you don't have any interest in really learning how to use it, you're willing to skate. If there's some cheat, if there's some simple path, most people will take it. Not Americans, not America. Americans, they know freedom isn't free. If we want freedom in this country, we've got to pay for it. Isn't that sad? Freedom isn't free. Don't you love the oxymoron? I'm arguing with all these oxymorons online about my libertarian nationalism. They are oxymorons. You should read the comments on Facebook. If you ever want to see a sludge pit of retardation, go and check out the comments on Facebook when I make my posts about libertarian nationalism. It's like uniformly the people who hate it are everyone that I'm standing against anyway. So I'm like, this is doing exactly what I want it to do. If you haven't read my Libertarian Nationalist Manifesto, now's a great time to do so. Thanks everybody for going and making purchases at forlibertyshop.com. Whoa, kicking butt. Here, let me pull it up for you guys so you can see. Let's check out where everybody is on the map this morning. Let's go to this. Let's monitor this situation. What do you guys say? Here is the forlibertyshop.com map. We've got some people from Iowa, Oregon, Oklahoma, Tulsa. We've got, let's see, look, all over the Midwest, Illinois. Here we are, guys. This is New York. That must be Quest Fanning, I'll bet. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, somebody the other day was like, there were 14 different spyware things, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's Shopify, dude. I'm tracking you. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up for you guys today on the Wake Up America show. Camellia Petersen will be joining us live at 8 a.m. Central. Generation Z apparently thinks that to a larger extent than some of the older generations, thinks that husbands should tell their wives what to do. So Camellia Petersen is going to join us live at 8 a.m. Central Day. Today's Thursday, which means that we are going to have the second episode of Cafecito Libre starring Marlene Salabaria. You guys, so excited for her. Right here on the For Liberty Network, we have a host of show. We have 5 shows on the Wake Up America show's For Liberty Network. Cafecito Libre is our newest show that we've launched. And she's already kicking butt. She's going to be live today. She's in Panama. So she's going to be doing boots on the ground reporting live from Panama this morning, talking about what's happening with liberty and What's happening with liberty in Latin America, South America? We're live from Panama today. Maylene Salavaria. Make sure that you guys are tuned in and watching, okay? Glad to have Camellia joining us live at 8 a.m. Central on the Wake Up America show. What you're watching right here is the first confirmed ship-to-ship torpedo kill since World War II. Nice shooting, soldier. Look at this. Watch this right here. This is the submarine view. I was looking at some of the chatter on the U.S. Navy Twitter yesterday. There are so many retired sailors who were so mad that they didn't get a chance to get a torpedo kill. They trained for this their whole lives. So here's my question to all the idiots who think that the United States is the greatest terrorist in the world. Let me ask you something. At what point did you realize you are a big, stupid vagina? Or not realize? Peter the Great says, yeah, I know the skipper of that boat was giggling like a schoolgirl. I wonder if the guys of the sub are like the crew from down Periscope. You know what's funny about that? I've got a replica here somewhere of the USS Jefferson City. And I interviewed those guys a few years ago. And they said that if you want to watch a movie that is the most similar to how the U.S. Navy, how submarines actually operate, they said that down Periscope is actually the closest one. So it's not the Hunt for Red October or Das Boot or U-571 or whatever. It's down Periscope, which is just to me, I just think is great because I just love to picture, is it Kelsey Grammer? I love to picture like Kelsey Grammer is out there. I feel so much more safe and comforted here in the United States, knowing that our Navy is not like the guy. It's not like Alec Baldwin. It's more Kelsey Grammer because Alec Baldwin is a commie. Yeah, Cecilia, it's true. True Samu says 100% of submarine sailors are characters from down Periscope. Yes. USS Missouri is a cool sub. Yeah, we have a USS Jefferson City as well. It's like a lighter one, I think. It's not a deal. Are all subs now nuclear or do we have like some diesel cruiser? I'd be curious. Let me know. Yes, Kelsey Grammer Fraser. Okay, guys, we've been getting onto this. So the question for all of the lulberts and the leftists is, at what point is it considered self-defense to do what Donald Trump is doing in the Middle East? At what point is it considered self-defense? Well, I asked people this question online. At what point is it self-defense? Somebody said who considers himself a libertarian. The first time that they kill an American, then we go in and we glass the place. Okay, well, let's just do a neutral guess. When was the first American killed by Iran's after 1979 revolution? Let's just go over to Grok. We'll trust him for now, guys. Just give me a break, okay? All right. Who was the first American killed by the government of Iran after the 1979 revolution? Okay, let's see. And this is the question. No, they kill American citizens. It's one thing, but what if they try and kill the president? The first American directly killed by the Iranian government or his agents appears to have been in the context of the early 1980s attacks, particularly those carried out by Iran-backed groups like Islamic Jihad, which was a precursor to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. Timelines from sources like the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies point to the April 18th, 1983 suicide car bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, Lebanon, as one of the earliest lethal attacks attributed to Iran post-revolution. This attack killed 63 people, including 17 Americans. The Islamic Jihad group claimed responsibility. That is widely recognized as directed and supported by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. The 1979-1981 Iran hostage crisis involved 66 Americans held for 444 days. So at what point are they violating our NAP? I guess is the question. Now, what if President Trump is telling the truth? Consider for a moment, maybe he is telling the truth. that Iran tried to kill him? What if Iran had tried to kill him, and what if they had succeeded? Would that have been enough? Well, if you say yes, that would have been enough to go to war with Iran, then is the point of the non-aggression principle that you have to wait until your president is assassinated before you can do something? If they've killed American people, and if they've tried to assassinate the president, is the threat of violence and the use of it not a violation of the non-aggression principle? Oh, no. The United States is the greatest terrorist in the world. This is why I can't truck with the Dave Smiths, the Clint Russells, the Mises Caucus guys. There's a reason why there's so much overlap with the anti-America First Fuentes crowd and the Dave Smiths of the world. There's a reason why they get along all together. It's because their worldview is one that deeply despises the United States and everything about it, every single aspect of the United States. You can say that's a straw man. No, they believe in America's free speech, blah, blah, blah. How can you say that you truly believe in what the United States stand for when you're clearly rooting against the United States in every single possible defense scenario, in every single situation? These are people who think that World War II was unjustified. These are people who will say ridiculous things like Osama bin Laden had some legitimate grievances against the United States. No, he fucking didn't. We'll talk about that stuff later on the Wake Up America show. Make sure you click that like button and click the follow button as well. I'm Austin Petersen. This is the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. All right, let's talk about the price of leadership in a world that has lost its mind. March 3rd, 2026, the FBI unseals an indictment that should have every American, left, right, center, Lulbert, reaching for their Revolutionary War history books. Farhad Shakari, an Iranian asset, is caught cold coordinating a murder-for-hire cell on U.S. soil. So we're not talking about a few disgruntled guys in a basement with a Save the Whales poster. We're talking about a $20 million bounty placed by the Mullahs in Tehran to take out the president of the United States. But here's the chilling part. This isn't the amateur hour we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania. This isn't a lonely kid on a rooftop or a guy hiding in the bushes at a golf course with SKS rifle and a GoPro. Those were the beta tests. The Iranians watched the security failures of 2024. They studied the gaps in the president's security, and they decided to upgrade to the professional package. They hired the thieves-in-law, the Russian and Eastern European mob, to do the deed. Why? Because in the twisted mind of the DC pacifists, if a gangster pulls the trigger, it's just organized crime. If the IRGC does it, it's an act of war. And of course, Tehran was betting on our cowardice to ignore the difference. Now, let's get the legalities straight, because the drive-by media is going to try to gaslight you into thinking this is just another security breach. Under international law, when a state attempts to assassinate the head of another state, the conversation about diplomacy is over. It's a casus belli, an act of war, period, full stop. In 1993, Saddam Hussein tried to kill George H.W. Bush with a car bomb in Kuwait. He missed. You know what Bill Clinton did? He didn't call for a de-escalation summit. He fired 23 Tomahawk missiles into the heart of Iraqi intelligence headquarters. He understood that the attempt is the crime. The attempt is the war. If we allow the mullahs to take free shots at our leaders, just because they haven't hit the bullseye yet, you're not a sovereign nation. You're just a tributary state waiting for the final blow. Now, what was Tehran really trying to do? It's not just revenge for Soleimani. That's the story for the rubes. This was a strategic decapitation strike. Imagine if they had succeeded on March 3rd. Imagine if President Trump had been assassinated. This country would be in a constitutional convulsion. The 25th Amendment, succession crisis, civil unrest. While we're busy planning a state funeral, the Iranians move into the Strait of Hormuz. China moves on Taiwan, and the global security architecture collapses. An assassination is a black swan event designed to trigger a global power vacuum. They want to kill the shepherd so they can scatter the sheep. They're not just targeting a man. They're targeting the stability of the entire Western world. And where are the pacifists? Where are the war is never the answer crowd? Well, they're sitting in their air-conditioned studios today, They're going to tell us that we need to understand Iran's grievances. They're going to tell us that the United States is the greatest terrorist in the world, right? They're going to, while the Iranians are trying to kill everybody that they can, demonstrating to the world why they absolutely should never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, they're sitting in their podcast studios talking about how great they are, selling their own version of coffee, not as good as Founding Flavors. And selling out our country. So this is kind of a sick sort of Stockholm syndrome. Right? The pacifist doctrine in 2026 is a suicide pact. They'd rather see the American president in the ground than an Iranian centrifuge in rubble. But the truth is, if the hit on Trump had succeeded, the rally effect would have been so explosive for revenge that even the hardest isolationists would be demanding Tehran be turned into a glass factory. By trying to kill the leader, Iran invited the total war they were desperately trying to avoid through asymmetric sneakiness. Butler, Palm Beach, this Persian plot. At what point do we admit that a lone wolf narrative was a convenient way to hide the fact that our enemies have discovered our soft underbelly? The Iranians saw the incompetence of the Secret Service. They saw the gaps in the perimeter, and they decided to fund the gaps. But they're not sending their best. They're sending the most disposable. They recruit from our prisons. They recruit from the cartels. Iran turns our own domestic chaos into a weapon against our sovereignty. And if we treat it like a criminal justice issue like they hope we do, we lose, right? You don't read the Miranda rights to a state-sponsored hit squad. You send a message that makes the next recruit rethink his career choices. Wake up, America. The red line isn't in the sand in Syria. It's not in the water in the Gulf. The red line is the hull of the presidential limo. The moment a foreign power commissions a hit on American leadership, the rules of diplomacy are incinerated. The Mullahs thought that we were too divided to react. They think that we're too distracted by the price of oil, or that we're like Europe and we'll back down, right? Americans, we might bicker over taxes. We might argue over tariffs. But we do not allow a 7th century theocracy to cast the deciding vote in our elections with a long-range rifle. It's time to return to the doctrine of Stephen Decatur. If they bring the fire to our harbor, we bring the fire to theirs. If you're going to stand on that wall, you better be awake. You don't want to be drowsy when the thieves in law are scouting the perimeter. Before we talk to Camellia Petersen, all right, it's time to stock up, guys. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Get you some of that sweet, sweet Jeffersonian Java. I know that Camellia is going to love this live read. Ladies and gentlemen, leave it to Neil Gorsuch, Justice Neil Gorsuch. I know you guys are crushing on him. But leave it to Neil Gorsuch to remind the nanny state bureaucrats that America wasn't built on kale smoothies and quinoa bowls. In a recent Supreme Court argument regarding marijuana users and their Second Amendment rights, Gorsuch decided to drop a truth bomb that was the totalitarian teetotalers having a tizzy. He pointed out that our founding fathers, the men who gave us the greatest system of liberty in human history, were quite frankly habitual drinkers. Yeah, I mean, we knew this. You guys have seen the bar tabs. Gorsuch noted that the founders would probably fail a modern government clearance check before they even finished the preamble. He pointed out that in the 18th century, people drank hard cider like it was water, largely because the water would kill you, but also because our forefathers were free men. Think about that. Think about that. The men who wrote the Constitution were doing it under the influence of substances that would have a modern HR department calling the National Guard. Ben Franklin once allegedly said, "Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy." And trust me, guys, he wasn't talking about some triple filtered non-alcoholic vibe beer served in a Silicon Valley cafeteria. These guys were brewing, distilling, and debating the Bill of Rights while the room was spinning. They still managed to outthink every bureaucrat in DC today. It's not the alcohol. Now, a lot of people in Congress today do drink like founding fathers, but Gorsuch's point was simple. If we didn't strip the founding fathers of their right to bear arms just because they had a tankard of ale at lunch, why are we acting like a modern plant is a reason to disarm the citizenry? Thank you, Gorsuch. It's about consistency, right? It's about recognizing liberty is messy and it shouldn't require permission from a guy in a lab coat. So, if the men who built the republic could handle a bit of the devil's lettuce or a gallon of Applejack, why are you still sipping out of a crinkly plastic bottle like a junior high student at a pizza party? This is why that we at forlibertyshop.com have launched the For Liberty Shop 250th anniversary of the United States collection. Let's go. Let's go. We're celebrating 250 years of American defiance. And if you need the gear to match the gravitas, I'm talking about the double-sided 250th anniversary flag. Don't you want that flag? I do. It's built to withstand the winds of change and the glare of the bureaucracy. I was just looking at reviews in the shop. One 5-star rating says, "This flag is so bold, I felt compelled to nullify a federal law just by unrolling it in my front yard." Another customer wrote, "Finally a flag that looks as good from the back as it does from the front. Quality defiance." And for those of you guys taking the Gorsuch doctrine to heart for your evening pour tonight, we have the Cheers to 250 Years whiskey glass, wine glass. It's etched and designed for a citizen who knows the difference between a bill and a right. I saw a review from a guy in New Hampshire, who said, "Pouring a drink into this glass feels like wearing the 10th Amendment. Durable, patriotic, and ready for a toast to the Republic." And guys, for your morning brew, for your founding flavors coffee, we have the Party Like It's 1776 mug. Steffi is so proud of this design. She worked so hard on it. The Party Like It's 1776 mug. One recent 5-star reviewer said, "This mug holds enough caffeine to power a revolution. I use it every morning to remind myself that liberty never sleeps." There it is, guys. Gorsuch. He's given us the green light to embrace our heritage. We have a legacy of individual liberty that includes the rights to enjoy the fruits of the earth without asking a government Karen for your papers. So celebrate the anniversary of our independence just like a founding father would. Don't just sit there, equip yourself. Head over to forlibertyshop.com right now. Grab the double-sided 250th flag. Secure that 250 years, cheers to 250 years wine glass. Start your morning with the Party Like It's 1776 mug. Support the shop, support the show, drink like a free citizen at forlibertyshop.com, because liberty is best served in etched glass. People say I'm crazy. What do they know? And we can build this life forever. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing's gonna stop us.
先ほどアメリカ合衆国軍はイランに対し大規模な戦闘作戦を開始した。このテロリスト政権に核兵器を持たせることは絶対にない。もう一度言う、核兵器を持つことは決してない。我々は彼らの核計画を壊滅させる。もし再建を試みるなら再び完全に壊滅させる。我々は彼らのミサイルを破壊し、そのミサイル産業を地上から一掃する。彼らの海軍を殲滅する。アメリカ合衆国軍の力と威力に挑戦する者は誰であれ、その代償を払うことになる。革命防衛隊及び全ての武装勢力に次ぐ。武器を捨てよ。完全な面積を与える。さもなくば確実な死を迎えることになる。イランの誇り高き国民へ、自由の時は今だ。アメリカは圧倒的な力と壊滅的な軍事力であなた方を支援する。
I think I've come up with the title for my new book, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Living in an American Superpower. Okay, guys. All right. Coming up, we're going to dissect the dating recession. Is the American family dying because we're all too broke to afford a wedding or because we've become too narcissistic to love anyone but ourselves? We're going to put that question to the biggest narcissist I know, our favorite anti-tax princess, Camellia Petersen. No, just kidding. She's waiting in the wings. She's going to tell us why you're all single. Stick around. Wake up, America. We'll be right back.
Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that, in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers, pronouns are mandatory, and Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop for libertyshop.com. In the autumn of 1777, as the leaves turned crimson along the Hudson River Valley, the British Empire launched its boldest gamble to crush the American Rebellion. General John Burgoyne, Gentleman Johnny, marched south from Canada with an army of nearly 8,000 redcoats, Hessians, Loyalists, and native allies, aiming to slice New England from the rest of the colonies by seizing Albany and linking with forces from New York City. The plan promised swift victory, a decisive blow to end the war before winter. Burgoyne bet 50 guineas he would dine in London by Christmas. But the wilderness had other ideas. Roads dissolved into mud under relentless rains, supply lines stretched thin, and reinforcements never materialized. General Henry Clinton stayed in New York. General Barry St. Leger was repulsed in the Mohawk Valley, and Burgoyne's army, now reduced, weary, and isolated, pushed deeper into enemy territory. Waiting for them stood Major General Horatio Gates, newly appointed commander of the Northern Department, fortifying a strong position on Bemis Heights, south of Saratoga. His forces, swelled by militia and Continentals to over 10,000 and growing, included the brilliant Polish engineer Thaddeus Kosciuszko, who designed impregnable earthworks, and the fiery Brigadier General Benedict Arnold, whose division held the vulnerable left flank. The first clash came on September 19th at Freeman's Farm, an open clearing amid thick woods. Burgoyne divided his army into 3 columns to probe American lines. In the center, British troops under General James Hamilton advanced into a storm of rifle fire from Colonel Daniel Morgan's Virginia sharpshooters, crack marksmen who picked off officers with deadly accuracy, their long rifles outranging British muskets. The fighting raged for hours, the field changing hands repeatedly in brutal hand-to-hand combat. British bayonets drove back American charges, but at terrible cost. Hessian reinforcements arrived just in time to stabilize the line. By dusk, Burgoyne held the farm, yet his army bled. Nearly 600 casualties, including heavy losses to the 62nd Regiment, reduced to a shadow of itself. The Americans lost about 330 men, killed, wounded, but Gates refused to yield ground. Burgoyne dug in, expecting aid that never came, while American numbers swelled daily. For 18 days, the armies faced each other across fortified lines, skirmishing constantly, the air thick with tension, and the distant crack of scouts' rifles. Supplies dwindled for the British, desertions mounted. On October 7th, Burgoyne gambled everything on one last assault to break the American left and open a path north. About 2,000 troops advanced toward Bemis Heights, aiming to seize key redoubts. The attack faltered almost immediately. Morgan's riflemen and light infantry harassed the flanks, while American artillery pounded the advancing columns. As British momentum stalled, Benedict Arnold, relieved of command by Gates days earlier but unable to stay sidelined, leapt onto his horse, rallied troops, and led a ferocious countercharge. Come on, boys! His brigade smashed through Hessian lines, capturing Bremen's redoubt in savage fighting. Arnold's horse was shot from under him, his leg shattered by a musket ball, yet the tide turned irrevocably. British forces recoiled, abandoning artillery and leaving their dead and wounded on the field. Burgoyne's losses that day approached 600. The Americans suffered fewer than 150. With escape cut off, Burgoyne retreated north to the village of Saratoga, only to find himself encircled by nearly 20,000 Americans. Supplies exhausted, morale shattered, no relief in sight, he had no choice. Negotiations dragged for days, but on October 17, 1777, under the Convention of Saratoga, Burgoyne surrendered his entire army. Over 5,700 troops laid down arms in a field, colors furled, drums beating a mournful march. Gates accepted the sword with courtesy, refusing to humiliate the defeated general. It was the first time in history an entire British army had surrendered to rebels. The news raced across the Atlantic like wildfire. In Paris, Louis XVI and his ministers, long watching, wary, saw proof that the Americans could win. Within months, France signed a treaty of alliance pledging troops, ships, money, and open war against Britain. Spain and the Netherlands followed, transforming a colonial uprising into a global conflict that stretched British resources to the breaking point. Saratoga was no single battlefield triumph, but a campaign of endurance, brilliant defense, and decisive aggression. It lifted patriot spirits from the brink, proved raw courage and marksmanship could overcome professional armies, and shifted the war's momentum forever. From the bloody fields of Freeman's Farm and Bemis Heights, the revolution gained not just a victory, but the foreign aid needed to secure independence. The tide had turned, and the road to Yorktown lay open.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Hope you guys enjoyed today's little mini documentary. Yeah, we had a couple days off there, but now our AI mini documentary machine is working. Thank you very much for supporting us financially. We're growing like crazy. We added a new employee this week to the For Liberty Network. He's doing great. It's 3 stinky guys in a tiny little coat closet here. So I had to get the man cave. I'm not saying they stink, but you get 3 dudes together in close proximity. And suddenly, on top of all of the stinkiness, you got the misogyny as well. Generation Z males twice as likely as baby boomers to believe wives should obey their husbands. A global survey shows young men and boys hold more traditional views about gender roles than older generations. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Iranian slut shaming, and we're going to talk about whether the reason why people aren't getting married is because they can't love anybody more than they love themselves. Right now, Camelia Petersen is live on the Wake Up America show. Hi, Camelia.
Good morning.
Which one do you want to tackle first? Look, you're already blushing. Which one do you want to tackle first, Camelia? Ladies' choice.
Choices.
I won't tell you what to do.
Let's talk about Gen Z men thinking women should be more submissive and obedient.
I mean, it would be one thing if it was like a generation of men that were composed of these ultra masculine males. No offense to my brothers, but Generation Z with their floppy hair. Have you seen their stupid haircuts?
Sorry, have you seen the meme that talked about like what haircuts used to be and like what they are now? Was it you that sent that? Maybe I don't know where I saw that now.
I don't know. Just like imagine being told what to do by a man with like this hair flopping everywhere every time he talks.
Broccoli top.
Broccoli top. A man with a broccoli top say, "You should obey me." We demand to take. On a serious note, though, why do they think that? Why do they think that? And do you agree with them?
I mean, I think that we have been seeing, in young men, this kind of swing back to more conservatism and traditional values, and they're looking for structure, whether that comes from, faith or otherwise, I think that they are craving that because they've been told, for so long, for Gen Z men all their lives now, that they are less. And so I really do think that they are looking to find meaning in their masculinity and value. And so I think these are natural outcomes of that.
So they think that their wives should obey them. Global survey shows young men and boys hold more traditional views about gender roles than in older generations. So that's not just here in the United States. This seems to be something, this is kind of a new generation. You know what they're doing? They're watching the AI boomer slop of what life was like in the 1960s in some of these neighborhoods back in the day. And they see their husbands like, you know what? Some of my favorite videos are the ones where it's like the Old West and they show them smacking their wives' ass, saying, that means you love her. Yes. And like the wife is like, kind of turned on, but also put in her place.
Well, you know what's funny about that study, that article that talked about how that they are more Gen Z men are looking to be more traditional and have those sort of quote unquote traditional values of, and what we would consider traditional male and female roles and relationships. However, and really interesting piece of that was that I think it was over 40% of these men also think that it's attractive if a woman has a professional career. So there's a little bit of a contradiction going on there. They want a woman to be like dominant and successful, but they also kind of want her to be a little submissive too. They want it all.
I agree. You know what? I'm on their side and they deserve it all, baby. And let me tell you something. I'm glad you said it like that. I'm glad you set that up. You just teed that up for me because I'm about to whack a hole in one. I like that, and I support double standards. I believe in double standards. And I think it's time. Now, that means that we don't necessarily get to tell you what to do, per se, but I will say that I think at the end, that it's an important lesson on how there has been a double standard that has gone one way, the other, for a long time, right? Where now it seems as if the shoe is on the other foot. It's kind of like you all fought so hard, ladies, for equality. And what you didn't realize was that equality was a step down. Hole in one, baby. Hole in one. 400 yards. You and me and Aaron Claire need to go play some golf when we're in Las Vegas, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing, though, that Gen Z men need to remember who like the independent, successful women, but also would like them to, be obedient and submissive and, serve them dinner at home, is that if she's off working all day, it's kind of hard for her to be that, stay-at-home wife that greets you at the door and has your dinner ready and all of those other, 1950s idealism tropes.
No, I think that they should. I think they should do it for a while because then you're going to realize how good you had it. I love all the reels. I'm on the Instagram where they send reels to me now for my algorithm that they knew I was gonna love, and it's all these wives complaining about their jobs and how much they hate. How much there's a quote from Shawshank Redemption at the end when like Red doesn't think he can get out of prison. He doesn't want to escape Shawshank. He doesn't think he'll make it on the other side. He's an institutional man now. And it's all these wives who are talking about their husbands asking them if they're going back to work after having kids. They're like, I don't know, Andy. I don't know life on the outside. I'm an institutional man now. So.
Yeah, it's like not unlike it, I suppose. I do think that a lot of women are conflicted about this as well, right? I think that there is a part of them that wants to be independent, successful, not to have to rely on anybody. Because let's be real, like lots of women have been burned by being completely reliant on men. However, they also,
jeez. Oh no, I had to get a job.
There is also a part of them that does want to, play that homemaker role and be cared for and supported. But I mean, so I think women are conflicted about this as well, and they're both searching for the path forward in this to find that balance.
I think I know what they should do. They should import the newly liberated Iranian baddies. Now, Camellia. Some of these Persian girls that are posting these provocative videos, I talked to one of them yesterday, Maneh Rahimi. She was at the center of this controversy. All these Iranian chicks these Persian women, these beautiful Persian women, you know, unadulterated by the taste of constant McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and all of that. They are feeling very liberated. And strangely enough, the woman who is at the center of this controversy in the United States, who triggered this bevy of beautiful Persian women posting these images online of their bodies, was a libertarian woman by the name of Melissa Wong. I'm not sure if you saw this. But yeah, a libertarian woman, Melissa Wong, very opposed to the war in Iran, of course, right? Very non-interventionist, right? Very much on the Massey Rand Paul train there. Posted a tweet that had like 20 million views, and oh my God, the reposts to it and the responses to it are amazing. Guys, bookmark that one. But it showed to me, I think, an insane level of jealousy from American women who feel very insecure about these liberated women expressing their liberation. There's a morality police here in the United States, just like there's one in Iran. They just kind of wear different uniforms, don't they?
Okay, so, you know, when you say that, though, like, I don't know if these women are taking their clothes off because I have not seen these videos. My algorithm doesn't feed me that. But, you know, the first thing that pops into my mind is when you have a lot of the leftist liberal women, you know, protesting and everything in all of these countries, what do? They take their clothes off. Like, what is with the women on the left and, like, whatever. Like,
God bless
taking their clothes
them.
off.
God bless the free people of Iran. They must rise up. Because there's the type of immigration I'm for, Camellia. That's the type of immigration this country needs. Because
is that the Ellis Island approach?
Yeah, we'll put them at the front of the line.
Okay.
Security check, disease check, done. Do you think it's true? The Fuentes, the Groyper people like to say this. Do you think it's true that if we had an immigration policy that prioritized beautiful young women from around the world, that leftist, liberal, open border type females would all suddenly be for closed borders and they're up their own SS squads? Do you think they'd all be doing the Heil Hitler? Camellia, be honest.
I mean, you know, they probably would object because obviously, you know, the objection would be that you are basing your decision on looks. So, I mean, that would be their first objection. So, yes, they would be in favor of closing the borders. But also, like we all know that if you let people immigrate based on that criteria, they're going to come in and they're going to join the leftist women. Like, you know that, right?
No, because you know what'll happen is that you would think that is true, but women tend to take on the opinions of the men that they attach themselves to. That is a real phenomena. So if a man shows leadership, and if they do what these Gen Z males around the world are suggesting should be done, Gen Z males twice as likely as baby boomers believe wives should obey their husbands. If they take a leadership position in their marriage and they guide their wife, right? They show her the way. They sometimes take decisions off of their plates, important decisions that have to be made unilaterally without a declaration of war from Congress. Should we ask Ilhan Omar what she wants for dinner tonight, or should we just cook the damn steak and say, eat it? Actually, in her part, we're going to give her bacon.
I mean, I don't know who she's married to now, but apparently in marrying her brother, he didn't, well, I don't know, maybe he was leading her.
Jesus Christ, this is a good time to ask for money. Click the like button. Don't you love the Wake Up America show? Are you not entertained? Drop a Rumble rant, guys. Let's try and hit 150 today. We'll play the Great Grift off at the end of the show. So somebody's going to win a prize.
Here's what I want to know, though. When we were talking about, you know, women being influenced by the men that they're in relationships with, who has the upper hand? Christine Noem or Corey Lewandowski?
Okay, well, that's true. She's got the hand, but that's an exception to the rule. But the rule is the rule. And before I forget, do reach out to Aaron Clary. Let him know we're going to be in Las Vegas. And let's at least get a drink with the guy, okay? Because I'm sure he and I are going to ping pong you back. Bing, bong, 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 bong. And for the last 3 hours, it's going to be one of the best nights of your life, all right?
Abuse. It's just going to be abuse.
No, it's going to be abuse. It's going to be the best abuse of your life. It's gonna be
Emotional distress.
you're gonna cry and then you're gonna beg us for more, Camellia. So don't act like it's not. Don't act like you don't love it, ladies. Here it comes. All right, last topic. But before we get to the last topic, I guess, can we say then, funny but on a serious note, do you think that if we did import a lot of hot babes from around the world as a top priority, do you think that gender competition suddenly being surrounded with, because yeah, you say they're going to be leftists, but here's the thing. If there's 3 women to 1 man, they're going to be whatever they can do to get a man. So is that the way to get women who are open borders to support closed borders? Is that case closed or?
I mean, you kind of already have an imbalance with men and women in the country. And here's the thing that I do think that even if you have more women, your problem is that you have an imbalance still in having men who are up to the challenge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because we have work to do on the side with men too, because of the standards that we set over the last 30 years.
No question. But our masculinity is always being called into question, Camellia.
Yeah.
Men have to renew their man card every single day. You do not live in a constant state of having to prove yourself to your significant other, your children, your mother-in-law, and everyone every single day. Every man has to pass the test. If we want a woman, we have a shit test. You want to do this, you got a test. There is no thing that gets handed to us in men except for the most beautiful at the very top. And just Nepo babies, but that's another thing entirely. Last topic, okay? So speaking of men and women, dating recession. So we've talked about this for months and months. What can we say that is possibly new? Well, over time, things change. And now we're seeing a problem that is a marriage gap problem between the college-educated elite and the working class. Is marriage kind of becoming a luxury good in 2026? I see people getting married, but they don't go to Las Vegas to elope. Most of them, they're just not getting married at all. So there's a serious problem of matrimonial arrangements in the United States today. Your thoughts?
Sure. And I think that, I think you have to start out too by defining marriage. Are we defining marriage by whether or not you get state sanctioned, or if you are going? I think the biggest piece of this, and this is probably where we're really lacking anymore, is the willingness to make a commitment to anybody. I think that if you are going to have a committed relationship, that you should make that commitment with other people as witnesses, right? Because that is a demonstration of that willingness. However, when I was looking at some articles and different studies on this last night, one of the things that popped out is that there are fewer marriages, but those marriages are more stable. And to me, there's a lot to that, because there was always such divorce was you were pariah if you were divorced, say 20 years ago, right? But when you look at people say, oh, it's better to stay married, whatever, but have you seen people that are in bad marriages and stay together, and the toxic environment it creates in the home for those children? I think that's kind of why we are where we are today. And I don't know how you fix that problem per se, but I would say that I would rather have fewer marriages, but stable marriages if you're going to have that. I mean, the problem is when you get kids into the mix, but I'm encouraged in a lot of ways by what I see in my daughter's, my 23-year-old daughter's circle of friends, because they are getting married. They do seem to be going into things like eyes wide open and ready to make those commitments. And so that's encouraging to me.
I know a lot of people are black-pilled about the younger generation, about marriage. I think we're going to find a constancy. I think we'll find a balance there somewhere. Okay. It's just that there's something of a transition period, I feel, generationally. And in terms of what marriage used to mean, I don't know that in the modern world we can say it necessarily means the same thing that it did then. People who adhere to tradition, I have deep respect for. And I think that the tradition of marriage itself, this contract between two or more, could be, hey, you want to be traditional?
Oh man, I just saw an article pop up about that. It's so sad.
Yeah, I know. The poor thruples. I really appreciate the I really appreciate all you do for us, Camellia. We were talking about you yesterday here behind the scenes and just how much you've done to help us grow this network. And I just want to make sure that everybody in the chat who's live right now, who knows what Camellia has done, been here every Tuesday and Thursday for over 3 years. And she financially supports us as well. So please say thank you, Camellia, and let's give her the stage and the floor. Camellia, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that you're working on? We talked about the income tax on Tuesday, but is there anything that you need help with? What can we do for you?
I mean, the biggest thing that if I would ask people to do something is just to, plug into and in some way, make your voice heard with your local politics, especially, but also with state level too. I mean, I think everybody feels like, oh, this one little thing doesn't make a big difference, but it really is the accumulation of everybody doing all of those things that does make the difference. Because when you talk about the number of lobbyists that are in our legislatures across the country, and it is super important for there to be that voice from the people in our legislators' ears, so that they're not just feeling that pressure from special interest groups who obviously there are a lot of companies who want to make things better for them from the government, but too much government intervention in our lives in general, and so that's why it's more important than ever for them to hear from we the people. But other than that, let's about the topic we were on. I'm optimistic in a lot of ways. I know there's a lot of black pill stuff out there, and there's a lot of concerns about the way young men are going these days, but I see a lot of reason for hope too, and there's a lot of good kids out there, and I am optimistic. And I love that this show has been going as long as it has. I will say, okay, Austin said I've been, on a couple of times a week for the last few years, but what he doesn't say is that he kind of had to drag me kicking and screaming there.
I remember, in the beginning, you didn't want to do these interviews. You were like this shrinking flower, and now you're like out there taking charge.
So yes, you have pushed me out of my box in many ways, and I'm very appreciative of that. It has served me well. Yeah,
and I just love all the people that we've come in contact with here in Missouri. Like, the nice thing about living in a red state is that we do actually get some wins here. So we don't have to be fully black pilled, because even if on the federal level we disagree or agree or whatever about some federal law, the fact is that Missouri fucking rocks, man. We've got a great state.
We have good people, a great state.
Yeah, we got to do some kind of a trip this summer. I think Hazel's old enough. If we can get a raft, we can go down the river. So let's do it. Have a great day, Camellia. Appreciate you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yep, see you around. Well, congratulations to you all. Glad and thankful for all of you supporting the Wake Up America show's For Liberty Network. We've got Cafecito Libre coming up today, this Thursday. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the Wake Up America show streams. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Cafecito Libre streams live on the For Liberty Network. Sorry, trying to get up on marketing correct here. They've got everything that you need to feel joy. You can hang out with all the boys. Man, there's so many Persian chicks posting their fun bags on X. Oh my God. I can't even scroll through Twitter live because there's so much of it. I have to try and censor it before it does. More and more people moving from the UK to the United States. Here's that immigration I was talking about that we needed more of.
So I'm a Brit living in America, and I just wanted to share some hope for those on their journey to moving to America. One day you're going to be eating Chick-fil-A in your bed, watching Netflix, watching Love is Blind. Life does get better than the UK, and can eat Chick-fil-A it's all going to be worth it. The struggles of getting a visa and everything. But now I get Chick-fil-A. And life is just good. It just couldn't be better because I'm in America and I'm so happy. So cheers.
You're free.
So
You're free. Open borders for Iranian baddies. I mean, Jesus. Here, I'll pull up this one. Here we go. I'll scroll a little bit. I won't do too much here, but look at this. They're going crazy. They are like, young man, there's no need to feel down. Look at the, sorry guys. Oops, that's the, I blame X's feed, all right? Look at this. You're not going to be happy if we, look at this. Look at all this. These just chicks there. They're coming to America. There she is. There's Monet. Monet was on the show yesterday, and then I saw she was on Dana Last's shows. That's her. Like she would be murdered if she wore that in Iran. God bless America. The young man, go, Monet. Everybody suddenly became pro-war. It's war propaganda. I know what Scott Horton over at Anti-War was saying this morning. It's 1976. This is war propaganda. I see like the Greystone news people. They're all just glooming and dooming, and it's the end of the world. Yeah, for the Ayatollahs. Did you see? It's the end of the world as they know it, and I feel fine. 6 o'clock TV hour. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
So now let's go to reaction that's pouring in from world leaders this morning who are waking up to a new reality with what happened overnight.
Hell yeah. How I learned to stop worrying and love living in a superpower. Ladies and gentlemen, we've spent the morning talking about Iranian hit squads and the maritime underwriters folding in the Gulf. But if you want to see real fear, if you want to see a pure, unadulterated panic attack, just try to hold the door open for a 22-year-old wearing a bucket hat. Trust me, you'd be safer in the Strait of Hormuz without insurance than you are in an office lobby with a Gen Zer armed with a boundary. Now, apparently we've reached the stage of civilizational collapse. If the West is in decline, here's why. Please and thank you are now officially classified as emotional labor. There's a new report, not from The Onion, detailing 11 outdated manners that Gen Z has officially deplatformed. Number one on the list is the unscheduled phone call. Apparently, calling someone's phone without a 3-day notice via text is an invasion of privacy. I remember a time when the phone rang and that was an exciting event. Now it's apparently a psychological attack. I saw a TikTok recently, a young woman literally crying because her boss called her to ask where the stapler was. She called it non-consensual communication. This is true. Non-consensual communication. It's a phone. It's not a SWAT raid. But to the vibe shifters, a ringing phone is a violation of space. They want a pre-call to discuss the possibility of the actual call. At this rate, by 2030, you're going to need a notarized permit and a 3-week cooling off period just to ask someone what time it is. Now, let's move to number 2 on this hit list. Sir and ma'am. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I called them sir, and they were like, sir. It's and the way that I could tell that they reacted to it was the way that no one had ever called them sir in their life, which could be an indication of the type of life that they had lived individually if it didn't just seem so endemic of the new generation to never even consider that someone might actually, I don't know, be polite? Yeah. Have you never seen this before? This is called manners. We have too much communication. Oh, where Camellia? She's on this side of the vibe shift. Camellia wants advance notice. I'll remember that, Camellia. They call this sir or ma'am archaic, or they call it hierarchical. And of course, the ultimate crime stopper, it's gender presumptive. This is real. I'm not making this up. So I saw a news clip from Virginia last week where a middle school teacher was dragged before the school board because a student complained that being called sir made him feel marginalized by the patriarchy. The kid is 13. He doesn't know what a patriarchy is, but he knows that discipline and respect are vibe killers. When I was growing up, if you didn't say yes, sir, to an elder, you weren't being gender neutral. You were being a brat. But today, we've replaced the dignity of the honorific with the familiarity of the barn floor. They want to be addressed by their first names by total strangers. Hey, Austin, says the 19-year-old valet who just dented my ride. No, it's sir. The word sir. The word sir is the glue of the republic. It signals that we're all citizens under the same law, treating each other with a baseline of respect. But to the narcissists, respect is a social construct that interferes with their authentic self-expression. If you can't say sir, you can't recognize authority. And if you can't recognize authority, you end up with the chaos that we see in every major city today. I was sitting down with the boys last night, and girls. We got a new girl in the class, the karate class. Wednesday nights are fight nights. And the boys and girl were sitting with me talking about respect. You can see from the reactions of the parents how badly they want to impart these values upon their children. And I applaud these parents who get their kids involved in martial arts, because parents who get their kids involved in martial arts, you know that they love their kids. And a lot of these kids, they come in because their parents are concerned maybe about fighting at school, or maybe they feel like their child is undisciplined, or maybe they just see like an effeteness to a boy where he needs to just toughen up a little, right? Hey man, gay or straight, I don't care. At the end of the day, everybody should have a strength to their character. Strong, better to be strong than it is to be weak. The point, though, however, in all of these offensive insinuations, is that it's offensive to be weak. It's offensive to be undisciplined. It's offensive to not have self-respect. When a student gets out of line, you correct them. When they speak, you say, shut up. You shut up and train. When you go into karate, when you go into martial arts, you shut up and you train. This is not a place for snowflakes. Oh my God, I said shut up. The parents, sometimes they do get a little freaked out by some of my methods, which can sometimes, I'll admit, be slightly harsh, but it's not because I truly enjoy punishing or hurting children. I don't. I wish I could have puppies and rainbows and hearts. I wish I could always just give them hugs and say, everything will be okay, life is easy. But I look those children in the eye every week, and I tell them, told them last night, we had a little huddle, and I said, hey, listen, I pointed right where their parents were. I said, nobody's coming to save you for the dangers that are approaching. I said, and I looked them all in the face, and I said, every one of you, if it hasn't happened already, at some point in your life, more than likely, is going to have a violent incident, some kind of violent attack. Many of you are going to have somebody haul off and punch you in the face. If it hasn't happened already, it's probably going to happen. So what I'm teaching you today is how to protect yourself, even from deadly force. For example, they were kind of laughing. It was like, it's like that Sun Tzu parable where he talks about the concubines, and they can't, can you turn this army of concubines into an army of soldiers? And Sun Tzu said, yes. Well, last night, the children were doing crab walk exercises. And, it's funny, they're bumping into each other. Some are faster, some are slower. But what you learn about human psychology, right, is that, just like the concubines of ancient China, when they were confronted with Sun Tzu, they didn't recognize the seriousness of the task that they were embarking on. So after they got done doing their crab walks and laughing, I got up and I chastised them and I said, this isn't a joke. So let me show you something. And then I recreated a violent incident that involved me landing on my back on the floor where I had to crab walk, crawl away to get away from the bad guy who had just initiated force, knocked me on my butt, and I'm now on my concrete and my hands are bleeding and I have to push my hands back in gravel. And I'm trying to paint a picture for these kids like, this is deadly serious. This is what could happen. This is why we do this. There's a reason. It's sort of like the Karate Kid movie. We do certain types of training to condition ourselves for the expectation of what might happen if someone were to strike us in the chest, strike us in the face. Like, violence is something that most of us, you're not going to experience on a daily basis, unless you're in the military. But since many of us have a normalcy bias, right, we don't train for violence. But when we come into the dojo, we understand that this is a safe place for us to train and practice violence. A good working knowledge of violence will give you the best civilian-based points of view of what the military and what the president of the United States has to undergo that you can have. If you don't join the military, at least get into some martial arts so that you can understand the relationship that the governments of the world have with violence. Like I said, in this class, these children, they awake to the realities of the world. In a safe environment with mats on the floor and pads, they can engage in violence so that they can understand the nature of violence. Because it's one thing to train violence, it's another thing to understand it at its very nature. The more you understand violence at its very nature, the more you see what Donald Trump is doing in Iran and why it makes perfect sense. That's how I handle my students, says Trusamu. No kid gloves. I don't care they never learned to read about fourth grade level. You gonna learn today. That's right. And the parents love it. The parents love it. The parents love seeing their kids, ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter how painful it is to watch it happening, this process of me breaking these children down into their component parts and building them up, breaking bad habits, installing good habits. At the end of the class, when it's over and you've seen the kids do 100 jumping jacks and sweat, and you've seen the fear on their faces, the doubt, the uncertainty, and then they get through the exercise and they've really done something incredible and they get the applause from their parents and everybody's just, we have this moment of synergy in the dojo. This is my first teaching job in martial arts, so please excuse me if I indulge myself. I hope that this is good dialogue for you. Austin, you should start incorporating jiu-jitsu, particularly the kind that focus on punch blocking defense. I have taken jiu-jitsu classes. I just can't commit to another martial art on top of the one I already practiced, but I've definitely taken courses in jiu-jitsu. And I did wrestling in high school, so I'm, familiar enough with grappling. The nice thing about me having friends is that if you choke me out, then I probably got a buddy who's going to kick your ass while we're on the ground for me. That's the nice thing. I believe in the power of numbers and gun fu, ultimately. All right, so the number 3 list on the list of the collapse of respect in modern society. You remember the old days? You used to get an invitation and you responded yes or no and you showed up. That was the deal. Well, not anymore. Gen Z has replaced the RSVP with the soft ghost. They have this new term that they call protecting my peace. And this is kind of like the universal get out of responsibility card. So I spoke to a small business owner in St. Louis who planned a corporate retreat. 4 people said they were coming. 12 showed up. The other 28, they didn't call, they didn't text, they just ghosted. When she confronted them, one of them told her, my energy was low and I had to honor my boundaries. Honor your boundaries? Your only boundary should be the one that says, I gave my word. We're building a society on the foundation of whatever I feel like at the moment. And that ties into number 4 on this list, handshakes. Post-COVID, the handshake is viewed as a germ-sharing ritual. So I saw a young lawyer recently try to give a peace sign. I went to go shake somebody's hand last night, and we had the most awkward, uncomfortable situation. Were we doing a fist bump? Was it, you've seen it before. Well, a young lawyer tried to give a peace sign to a judge during a deposition. The judge looked at him like he had 2 heads, right? So the handshake, it's a sign you're not holding a weapon, right? It's a covenant. But trust is outdated now. We've replaced the seal of a handshake with the shiftiness of an anime avatar. Number 5, holding doors. So this is where the comedy really turns into a tragedy. Apparently, if you hold the door open for someone, you're asserting dominance or assuming they lack agency to operate a hinge. I read an anecdote recently from a guy in Seattle who held the door for a young woman, and she literally filmed him for her TikTok, called him a microaggressor. He was just trying to be polite. She thought he was a colonizer of the threshold. And then there's number 6, thank you notes. Do you still write thank you notes? Handwritten? Forget it. That's unnecessary labor. Gen Z thinks that the Postal Service is a fictional setting from a Harry Potter book. Number 7, leaving voicemails. So they consider leaving voicemails to like an audio attack. I'm not kidding. So I have a cousin who won't listen to a voicemail from his own mother. He waits for the AI to transcribe it, reads the 3 words that survive the translation, and texts back K. The single most dismissive letter in the alphabet. That's not a response. That's a dismissal. We've abandoned the beauty of the spoken word for the sterility of the text bubble. It's efficient, right? Yes, I get it. I have done it, right? Cinderblock is efficient, right? We're stripping the humanity out of our interactions and wondering why everyone is so depressed. Number 8, eye contact. Apparently now looking someone in the eye is now aggressive or intimidating. I recently saw a story about a tech firm that had to install sensitive spaces because the junior developers complained that the senior partners were staring at them during meetings. They were talking to you, but to the vibe shifters, the eyes are the windows to the patriarchy. They'd rather stare at their shoes or the blue light of their screen. And that leads to number 9, dressing up. So business casual is now a violation of bodily autonomy. I heard an interview with an HR manager who said a candidate showed up to an internet security firm wearing pajama pants and Crocs. When she told him there was a dress code, he said, my clothes don't define my output. Okay, maybe not, kid, but they define your self-respect. We're becoming a nation of people who look like we just rolled out of a dorm room, and we're proud of it. We're becoming the sloppy superpower. And trust me, the Chinese aren't wearing pajama pants to their missile silos. Number 10, gossiping. So they've rebranded gossiping as accountability. Okay. They think gossiping is okay if it's punching up. It's the social media stink eye applied to real life. And finally, number 11, waiting to eat. So remember the rule, nobody touches the fork until the hostess sits down? Forget it. If the appetizer hits the table, Gen Z is diving in like it's the last scrap on a desert island. I'm just honoring my hunger cues. Right? Your hunger cues are just a fancy way of saying you have the impulse control of a toddler in a candy store. So we're reverting to a state of nature. Wake up, America. This isn't just about manners. Manners are the small sacrifices we make so we don't end up tearing each other apart over the last chicken wing. If we lose the ability to say please, to look each other in the eye, and to show up when we say we will, we don't have a republic. We have a Hobbesian war of all against all. The Mullahs might be trying to sink the ships, but the narcissism is sinking the culture. So do me a favor today. Go out there, hold a door, say yes, sir, and watch the vibe shifters crumble. It's the most subversive thing you can do. Politeness. I'm Austin Petersen. Stay awake, stay free, and for heaven's sake, RSVP to your grandma's birthday party. This is the Wake Up America show, baby. Do, 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 do. Wake up, America. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the smoking facilities in Tehran to the black ships in Tripoli and the cowardice we're seeing from our so-called allies. But before we sign off today, I want to take a minute, guys, to teach you guys, since we've talked about politeness, I want to teach you a lesson in what we call civilizational diplomacy, right? Southern civilization diplomacy. Right? It is the art of the Southern clapback. Have you ever heard of them? Down here in the South, we don't always need a carrier strike group to tell you we don't like you. Sometimes we just need a glass of sweet tea and the right polite phrase to put you in your place. Are you ready? Here's a list for you of 11 phrases Southerners use when they really, and I mean really, cannot stand someone. And honestly, I think this is the perfect guide for how we should be talking to the despots in Iran and the backboneless bureaucrats in Madrid, Spain. What say you? First up, the undisputed champion of Southern insults. Bless your heart. Oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart. When the European Union stands up and calls for maximum restraint while Iranian drones are hitting our bases in Cyprus, that is the only appropriate response. It sounds like sympathy. Oh, bless your heart. But in reality, it's the most devastating way to tell someone they're absolutely hopeless. We aren't angry when we say that. We just realize you don't have the sense God gave a goose. And to the Spanish government, who decided to kick our planes out of Rota while still expecting us to defend their trade routes, I think the whole American delegation should have just looked at them and said, well, aren't you precious? Well, aren't you precious? In the South, that isn't a compliment. That's a verbal slap to the face that means you are being rude, inconsiderate, and probably a little stupid. Then there is the personal favorite. For the Iranian mullahs who thought they could bully the West, I wish them the best, just not near me. That is Southern for, I don't want you in my hemisphere. I don't want you in my airspace. And I definitely don't want your nuclear ambitions anywhere near my posterity. It is the ultimate expression of libertarian nationalism. We don't need to nation build you. We just need you to stay on your side of the fence. And for the academics in London crying about the legality of protecting our own people, I've got 4 words for you. I ain't studying you. That means we literally do not care what you have to say. We are busy saving civilization while you're busy polishing your ghosts from 2003. We're in the short rows now, America, but before we go, if any of our allies are feeling a little sore about Donald Trump's trade threats, just remember, she's real comfortable in places she's not welcome. Spain got real comfortable taking our security money while telling us to get out. Now they're realizing the party is over. And when the State Department bureaucrats try to gaslight us about how vital these cowards are, we just look at them and say, I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. That's Southern code for, I heard the noise coming out of your mouth, but I've already rejected every single word of it, right? And for the Iranian regime leaders trying to act tough on the global stage while their people are rebelling, well, that's certainly a choice. That's a polite way of saying your strategy is absolutely insane, and we can't wait to watch it crash and burn. We just blew up your ship. And if they try to argue that they have a moral standing, we just give them the old, that's nice. It's the verbal equivalent of patting someone on the head while you wait for them to stop talking. We aren't interested in the debate. We're interested in the results. So as we watch the old global order crumble and we see that these nations realize that the American taxpayer is no longer going to be their sugar daddy and that we will stand up for ourselves and defend ourselves despite international law, we're going to shake our heads and say, I hate that for you. I just hate that for you. We don't actually hate it. we don't actually hate it. We're actually quite enjoying the accountability. And to the politicians who are suddenly worried about their standing with the United States, well, good luck with all that. We wish you the best of luck navigating the consequences of your own actions. And finally, for the whole mess in Tehran, last one, I'll pray for you. Good. Pray for him. Because at this point, that's the only thing that's going to save him. We're madder than a wet hen today, but we're standing tall as we say down in the holler, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And remember, it is what it is. The era of the American apology for being a superpower is over. The black ships are in the bay. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles on the land and air and sea. Oh, the black ships are in the bay. We are defending Western civilization, the United States Marines. Wake up, America. We'll see you tomorrow on this show, but later today, 3 p.m. Central. Don't forget, Cafecito Libre. Join Miley and Salabaria Tuesdays and Thursdays live from Panama. No, not Panama, Missouri. We've got a Japin, Missouri. We've got a Versailles, Missouri. Is there a Panama, Missouri? No. Panama, the country. A man, a plan, a canal. Panama. A man, a plan, a For Liberty network. Cafecito Libre. Come on, guys. We will fight our country's battles, the United States Marines. Join us live today, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's Cafecito Libre. And then 7 to 9 p.m. is Culturama. We're taking over the dial, guys. We're taking over all of the time slots. Hold on just one second. There we go. And yes, so we're taking over the time slots 5 days a week for the Wake Up America show. Twice a week, live streaming Cafecito Libre Culturama. Once a week, Liberty Tonight. You guys, let's make this happen. Exit through the Grift Shop, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network.
As the leaves turned crimson along the Hudson River Valley, the British Empire launched its boldest gamble to crush the American Rebellion. General John Burgoyne, Gentleman Johnny, marched south from Canada with an army of nearly 8,000 redcoats, Hessians, Loyalists, and native allies, aiming to slice New England from the rest of the colonies by seizing Albany and linking with forces from New York City. The plan promised swift victory, a decisive blow to end the war before winter. Burgoyne bet 50 guineas he would dine in London by Christmas. But the wilderness had other ideas. Roads dissolved into mud under relentless rains, supply lines stretched thin, and reinforcements never materialized. General Henry Clinton stayed in New York. General Barry St. Leger was repulsed in the Mohawk Valley, and Burgoyne's army, now reduced, weary, and isolated, pushed deeper into enemy territory. Waiting for them stood Major General Horatio Gates, newly appointed commander of the Northern Department, fortifying a strong position on Bemis Heights, south of Saratoga. His forces, swelled by militia and Continentals to over 10,000 and growing, included the brilliant Polish engineer Thaddeus Kosciuszko, who designed impregnable earthworks, and the fiery Brigadier General Benedict Arnold, whose division held the vulnerable left flank. The first clash came on September 19th at Freeman's Farm, an open clearing amid thick woods. Burgoyne divided his army into 3 columns to probe American lines. In the center, British troops under General James Hamilton advanced into a storm of rifle fire from Colonel Daniel Morgan's Virginia sharpshooters, crack marksmen who picked off officers with deadly accuracy, their long rifles outranging British muskets. The fighting raged for hours, the field changing hands repeatedly in brutal hand-to-hand combat. British bayonets drove back American charges, but at terrible cost. Hessian reinforcements arrived just in time to stabilize the line. By dusk, Burgoyne held the farm, yet his army bled. Nearly 600 casualties, including heavy losses to the 62nd Regiment, reduced to a shadow of itself. The Americans lost about 330 men, killed, wounded, but Gates refused to yield ground. Burgoyne dug in, expecting aid that never came, while American numbers swelled daily. For 18 days, the armies faced each other across fortified lines, skirmishing constantly, the air thick with tension, and the distant crack of scouts' rifles. Supplies dwindled for the British, desertions mounted. On October 7th, Burgoyne gambled everything on one last assault to break the American left and open a path north. About 2,000 troops advanced toward Bemis Heights, aiming to seize key redoubts. The attack faltered almost immediately. Morgan's riflemen and light infantry harassed the flanks, while American artillery pounded the advancing columns. As British momentum stalled, Benedict Arnold, relieved of command by Gates days earlier but unable to stay sidelined, leapt onto his horse, rallied troops, and led a ferocious countercharge. "Come on, boys!" His brigade smashed through Hessian lines, capturing Bremen's redoubt in savage fighting. Arnold's horse was shot from under him, his leg shattered by a musket ball, yet the tide turned irrevocably. British forces recoiled, abandoning artillery and leaving their dead and wounded on the field. Burgoyne's losses that day approached 600. The Americans suffered fewer than 150. With escape cut off, Burgoyne retreated north to the village of Saratoga, only to find himself encircled by nearly 20,000 Americans. Supplies exhausted, morale shattered, no relief in sight, he had no choice. Negotiations dragged for days, but on October 17, 1777, under the Convention of Saratoga, Burgoyne surrendered his entire army. Over 5,700 troops laid down arms in a field, colors furled, drums beating a mournful march. Gates accepted the sword with courtesy, refusing to humiliate the defeated general. It was the first time in history an entire British army had surrendered to rebels. The news raced across the Atlantic like wildfire. In Paris, Louis XVI and his ministers, long watching, wary, saw proof that the Americans could win. Within months, France signed a treaty of alliance pledging troops, ships, money, and open war against Britain. Spain and the Netherlands followed, transforming a colonial uprising into a global conflict that stretched British resources to the breaking point. Saratoga was no single battlefield triumph, but a campaign of endurance, brilliant defense, and decisive aggression. It lifted patriot spirits from the brink, proved raw courage and marksmanship could overcome professional armies, and shifted the war's momentum forever. From the bloody fields of Freeman's Farm and Bemis Heights, the revolution gained not just a victory, but the foreign aid needed to secure independence. The tide had turned, and the road to Yorktown lay open.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
if there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election.